Shalom. Just want to give all praises to Yahawashi, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shalom and salutations to the sincere Akim that's out there pushing this word and sincerity and truth week in and week out with sincerity. Just wanted to get into a quick lesson here at the plantation, and Spirit just came across me. I was just thinking about the different things that's going to be taking place in these upcoming events leading up to Yahawashi's return, and it got me to thinking about how this, what the scriptures bring out about what's going to be taking place in depth regarding Yahawashi coming back. So I just wanted to jump in a couple quick scriptures that goes into when he comes back. This is Isaiah 63. I'm starting at verse 1. Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? This is that glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness might to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garment like him that treadeth the wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them with wine, with mine anger, with my anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garment, and I will stain all my raiment. Because this is talking about all the blood that's going to be shed when Yahawashi comes back to unleash his wrath and vengeance upon the earth, starting with America. It says, "For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeem is come." I'll go to a quick precept, and this is Revelations. I'm starting at verse 14. It says Revelations 14 and 14. It says, "And I look, and behold, a white cloud." That white cloud represents a chariot, and upon that cloud, one sat like unto the Son of Man. It's talking about Yahawashi, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. That sickle represents judgment, represents the sword, his vengeance. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, Thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. And he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped," basically for pouring out his judgment. "And another angel came out of the temple which in the earth, which in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar, which had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, Thrust in thy sharp sickle and gather the cluster of the vine of the earth." That represents everyone that's going to receive this judgment, 2/3 of the nation of Israel and the other nations. "For her grapes are fully ripe. And the angel thrust in his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of the Most High." That winepress represents them being destroyed in all the different ways that Yahawashi is going to bring destruction. Basically, you take a cluster of grapes and you put it in the press, you press it in so you can get out the juice of the wine. So basically, that represents the Yahawashi pressing these people, and their blood coming out represents the wine, which is symbolic to the wine press. "And the wine press was trodden without the city, and blood came out of the wine press, even unto the horse's bridle, by the space of 1,600 furlongs." And portion where it says the horse, the wine press, even unto the horse's bridle, is a metaphor to saying that so much blood is going to be shed. It's going to be like as high as the horse's bridle. And a horse's bridle is high. If you know a horse, if you ever seen a horse, getting up on top of a horse is not an easy thing. It's hard because it's high. You got to pull yourself up there, and that's what the scriptures is referring, that the blood is going to be that high, like the height of a horse. And we talking about Clydesdale horses, real horses. The next scripture I want to jump into is going to be Revelations 19, and I'm gonna start at verse 11. And it says, "And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse." That white horse represents Yahawashi coming in his power. "And he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True," Yahawashi, "and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns." The crowns represent all the different nations, the leaders of these different nations. They're presidents, prime ministers, and the people who run these countries. Those crowns represents their power that Yahawashi comes and he's going to take, because he's going to take them down. It says, "His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he that had a name written that no man knew but he himself, and he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name was called the Word of the Most High. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon the horse, clothed in fine linen, white and clean." That's representing the angels, and then ultimately the angels and the elect. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, with it he should smite the nations, and he that ruled them with a rod of iron, and he treaded the winepress, the fierceness and wrath of the Almighty power. And he had on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, "Come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great power." Because the scriptures tell you that there's going to be so much dead bodies over here that it's going to be a great feast for the fowls, the birds, because they're going to come and eat on, feast on these dead bodies, these dead corpses, when Yahawashi is done. That's how much wrath and judgment he going to bring. It's going to be a supper, a major feast unto these fowls, the birds. It says, verse 18, "That ye may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great." So that's how many people it's going to be. It's going to be people that's, it's talking about kings. It's talking about rulers of different of the nation. It's talking about their the military. It's talking about their leaders, their councilmen, on down to just a regular peon. All these dead bodies are going to be out there for them to feast on. Verse 19, "And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army." And it goes into Revelations, the 12th chapter, where it talks about Michael shall stand up and fight. They will stand up and fight against Michael, Satan, and the dragon. Basically, that's representing the dragon in that. And in this, it's talking about Esau's military might, NATO, the EU. They're going to basically be making war against Yahawashi and the angels when they come. And they're not going to want to fight. When you read in the Apocrypha, it tells you that they're going to be scared, but yet doth fight. because the Most High gonna put the spirit on them to fight. And the beast was taken with him, the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is the chip, and them that worship him, his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone. It's talking about America being destroyed. And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. And those fowls, like I read earlier, a couple of verses up, those fowls are gonna take a very large supper of the flesh of the dead corpse and bodies that's slain. And the last scripture I want to bring out is in Isaiah 66. Brothers always bring this scripture out because it's a marquee scripture about Yahawashi's return. Isaiah 66:15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword, and fire represents the nuclear missiles, along with the chariots shooting out those that concentrated fire, zapping people, zapping all the oxygen out of a person, all the fluids into powder, basically total dehydration till they vanish. It give you that was in that movie World of Worlds, but that's the example of what this is talking about, and that represents his sword. And plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. So when Yahawashi comes back, he's gonna bring forth life and death. The life represents him and the angels coming, reaping up the elect, gathering his elect into his chambers, which is the chariots, and that represents him bringing forth life to the elect that followed him. And then the death represents the judgment and represents the vengeance and wrath that he has within his heart, because the scriptures tell you that vengeance is in his heart, and when he comes back, he's not going to come back meeting as a man. He ain't going to meet you as a man. He's going to come in his all power and his glory. So with that, I would like to say, y'all brothers out there, stay strong. Yahawashi, our big brother's on his way. The scriptures tell you how he's going to be, and we hasten the day to see that time to come, and we near that time. All praises and glory and honor to Yahawashi, double honors unto the elders, apostles, who rule well and set the strong example for the Akim, and peace and salutations to the hopeful elect brothers out there pushing this word in sincerity and truth. Shalom.